I knew something was off the second my uncle didn't make a joke about the roast. That man never shut up about dry meat, and suddenly he was dead quiet. Knife and fork lined up like he was at a damn funeral. My name's Jordan. I'm 29 years old, living in Dallas. My parents died in a car wreck when I was 10, and my aunt and uncle took me in. Raised me like I was their own. At least that's the story they like to tell. Dinner started normal enough. Mashed potatoes, green beans, roast beef dry enough to choke a horse. But the energy was stiff. My aunt Janice kept adjusting her necklace and wouldn't meet my eyes. She used to be a school principal, the kind who could make a whole classroom go silent with just one look. My uncle, Carl, ex-Army real estate consultant now, sat like he was preparing to give a war report. Halfway through, Janice put her fork down, hands folded. We need to talk, Jordan. Quick note. Before we start, how's your day going, and where are you joining from? Carl slid a thick manila envelope across the table. This isn't easy, but it's time. I didn't touch the envelope. Time for what? Janice cleared her throat. You've been depending on the family trust too long. We think it's holding you back. I blinked. You think I'm, what, lazy? No one's saying that, she said quickly. But you're capable of more. Real independence. You're almost 30. Carl jumped in. Starting next month, we're cutting off your trust disbursements. It's for your own good. I stared at them, then opened the envelope. Job postings, bank teller, call center rep, janitorial work. There was even a flyer for a forklift certification program. You put all this together for me? Janice nodded, like she expected a gold star. I nodded too. Thanks, appreciate it. They exchanged a glance. That's it? Carl said. What do you want me to say? You've made your decision. They looked confused, almost disappointed, like they were waiting for me to argue, cry, throw my napkin down, and storm off. I just sat back in my chair and chewed my dry beef. They had no idea. They didn't know that for the past 3 years, I'd been quietly paying their mortgage, their travel expenses, even their damn cable bill, through a nonprofit they thought was someone else's charity project. And if they thought they were cutting me off, they had no idea what being cut off really felt like. I drove home in the same beat-up Chevy Colorado they loved to whisper about behind my back. Carl once asked if I was ever going to upgrade from the contractor lifestyle. I told him I liked not having a car note. He laughed like he felt sorry for me. Meanwhile, my Audi, paid in full, was sitting clean in a private garage 3 blocks from my townhouse. They thought I lived paycheck to paycheck. They had no clue I owned the building I lived in. Back inside, I kicked off my boots, turned on a single lamp in the corner of the living room, and pulled out my laptop. I didn't bother with music or a drink. I had work to do. 2 logins. First, the nonprofit portal, Horizon Families. Publicly, it helped support under-resourced retirees in transitional housing. What that really meant, in practice, was it paid my aunt and uncle's mortgage, property taxes, private health insurance, and that Alaskan cruise they took 2 summers ago, through strategic grant support. Next, I opened my company's ledger, Longhorn Logistics, LLC, warehouse contracts, freight brokerage, high-margin supply runs for regional retailers. Real revenue, very real profits. Almost half of it funneled cleanly, monthly, through Horizon. It all started 4 years ago. They invited me to sit down with them for help reviewing their homeowner's insurance. Janice was worried the policy had some weird clause she didn't understand. She handed me the paperwork, and right there, clear as daylight, was a mortgage balance they shouldn't have had. They told everyone the house was paid off. But the statement showed they'd refinanced twice in 5 years. Variable rate, ugly terms. I didn't say a word. I went home, started digging, and realized they were completely underwater, behind on bills. No retirement plan except the trust my parents left for me. It pissed me off how much they judged people who couldn't get their act together while they were barely treading water. I didn't confront them. I built a backdoor. I formed Horizon Families under a colleague's name, set it up to partner with real estate consultants to assist aging homeowners in unstable markets. Wrote them a case file so airtight it would pass any audit. Monthly assistance disbursements flowed through Horizon straight to their accounts. They never questioned it, thought they'd won the charity lottery. And now here they were, acting like they were cutting me off. Nah, I pulled up the master payment schedule and hovered over the auto disperse toggle. One click, off. Then I opened my messages to my accountant. Suspend all financial activity linked to the Jordan Family Trust effective immediately. Do not notify recipients. Will advise next steps. Sent. Then I opened the Horizon account and typed out another message. Reclassify the home assistance file tagged DFW retired couple number 4 as inactive. Freeze all outgoing payments. No notification necessary. Sent. Done. No alarms. No fireworks. Just silence. They'd feel it in a few days, maybe a week. Maybe they'd check their balance and assume a bank glitch. Maybe Janice would try calling the Horizon helpline that didn't exist. Maybe Carl would blame the government, or inflation, or whatever he shouted about on his Facebook page. Didn't matter. They wanted to teach me a lesson in responsibility? Fine. I'd let them learn what it really feels like to stand on your own. Let's see how they do when the money they never earned suddenly isn't there. I closed my laptop, tossed it on the couch, and stood up, walked to the window. Downtown Dallas was glowing in that late summer haze, heat radiating off the streets even after dark. They had no idea what was coming, and I wasn't angry anymore, just ready. Let the cutoff begin. 3 days later, my phone lit up at 7:42 a.m. Aunt Janice. I let it ring once, twice, then picked up. Morning, I said, calm as ever. Her voice came fast, tight. Jordan, sorry to call early, but have you heard anything from the trust? The deposit didn't come through. It's always in by now. I rubbed my eye and stepped into the kitchen, barefoot on cold tile. No, haven't heard anything. You sure it's not just a delay? We've checked everything. Carl even called that lawyer. What's his name? Hamilton? The one who used to manage the account. I already knew where this was going. I leaned against the counter. And? He said he doesn't have us on file, that there's no such account in the system. I gave her a second. Let her sit in that confusion. Maybe a clerical error, I said. She paused. Maybe, but it's not just that. We've got the electric bill due tomorrow, the HOA fees, Carl's med refill. Everything was lined up around that payment. I opened the fridge and grabbed a bottle of water, twisted the cap slowly. I'm sure it'll get sorted, I said. Maybe you just need to give them a call again. Walk them through it. Janice's tone shifted. Softer now. I mean, if it takes a few days to fix, would you be able to help? Just a short-term thing. I smiled, invisible to her on the other end of the line. You mean financially? Well, yes, just until things are back to normal. You mean until the trust is back to taking care of things? She hesitated. I mean, yes. I let the silence stretch. Then I said, I thought you wanted me to be financially independent. What? Of course, we do. You said it was time for me to stand on my own, that I'd been depending on other people's money too long. That was, Jordan, that was about your situation, not ours. Uh-huh. So I'm not supposed to rely on the trust, but you still can? That's not what I'm saying. Sounds like it. She let out a breath. This isn't the time to be difficult. I'm being independent. Nothing on the other end for a beat. Then, so you won't help. I can't help. I don't have a trust fund anymore. Remember? You said I needed to figure things out for myself. But this is different. Is it? I asked. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you cut me off and now you're realizing how that actually feels. She went quiet. A long, slow silence like she was trying to figure out what I meant, then choosing not to. Okay, she said stiffly. I just thought maybe you'd understand. I do, better than you think. Right. She ended the call without saying goodbye. I set the phone down and finished my water. No celebration, no fist pump, just cold ceramic under my feet and the quiet hum of the fridge behind me. They were scrambling already. First call, first crack. It wouldn't be the last. My phone rang again around 9:15 that night. This time, it was Carl. I stared at the screen for a second before answering. Evening, I said. His voice came slow, quieter than usual. Hey, kiddo, you got a minute? Carl hadn't called me kiddo since I was 16 and smashed his old lawnmower. That tone of voice, I'd only heard it once, when he got laid off back in 2012 and didn't want to tell Janice. Sure, I said, leaning back on the couch. So, he started, then cleared his throat. We've been thinking about Sunday. That talk. Yeah? Maybe we came at it too hard. It wasn't meant to be permanent, the cutoff thing. I said nothing. He kept going. You know your aunt. She gets in her head sometimes, starts reading these psychology articles about enabling and all that. Uh-huh. We were thinking. Maybe it makes more sense to ease into things, give you a runway, not just drop everything all at once. Now you're thinking about runways? He ignored the jab. We've hit a bit of a snag, behind on some things. What kind of things? He hesitated. Mortgage, property tax, insurance is due too. Nothing crazy. We just didn't expect the trust hiccup. How much are you behind? Little over 7,000 altogether. And refinancing's off the table? Another pause. We talked to a guy last year, said we'd need to clear up a couple things first. What things? Liens, debt ratio, market fluctuations, blah, blah. You know how these guys talk? I knew exactly how those guys talk. I'd sat in that meeting, in disguise, figuratively, when I bought the damn house out of foreclosure 2 years ago. I set up the trust under a holding company's name to avoid humiliating them. Let them stay. Let them believe they still owned it. They didn't. So your plan was to keep floating off the trust until, what, something fixed itself? We're not irresponsible, Jordan. No, just short-sighted. He didn't like that. I heard it in his breath. Look, I'm trying to have an honest conversation here. We just need some help. Temporary? And I'm telling you, I can't. I've got bills too. You said it yourself. I need to stand on my own. He tried to recover. We didn't mean it like that. It was more of a lesson, you know? Tough love. Tough love's easy when you're not the one getting cut off. He was quiet for a second. We raised you, Jordan. I know. We gave you a home. And I kept it from getting taken by the bank. Silence again. I pushed. Why didn't you sell when things got bad? We didn't want to leave. It's our home. No, I said. It's my property now. You just don't know it yet. I didn't say that part out loud, but I tasted the words. He finally said, "Can you at least think about it?" I already have. And I can't help. I ended the call before he could say anything else. I stared at the screen for a second, then tossed the phone onto the coffee table and stood up. My heart wasn't pounding. I wasn't shaking. I felt calm, settled, like I'd finally stopped carrying something that wasn't mine to carry. Let them feel it. Let them scramble. Let them figure out what it means to be cut off. The call came just after noon. I was mid-email when the ringtone buzzed through my laptop. I saw the caller ID, sighed, and picked up. Jordan, Janice said, her voice cracking before I could even say hello. We got a letter from the bank. I leaned back in my chair. What kind of letter? Foreclosure. She burst into tears. I waited. They said if we don't pay within 30 days, they're filing. I don't know what to do. We tried applying for a home equity loan and she sniffled hard. There's a lien? I already knew there was a lien. I placed it when I bought the property through the Shell Trust. It was standard, made refinancing impossible by design. A lien complicates refinancing, I said calmly. We didn't know it was there. We never saw anything in the paperwork. You should have had someone review it. We thought we had equity. I kept my tone even. What does your financial advisor say? She hesitated. We don't have one. I raised my eyebrows. So who's been handling your money? Carl, she said quickly. He knows real estate? He used to? Used to, I cut in. Key phrase. She didn't argue, just sobbed. Janice, I'm not trying to be cold here, but you both acted like you had a plan. You sat me down and told me I needed to grow up and stop relying on other people's money. You made that speech with a straight face. We thought you needed direction. We didn't realize that you were the ones who actually needed help. She broke down again, full on sobbing now. Please, Jordan, please. We've already sold Carl's truck. We canceled the cleaning service. We're cutting back, I swear, but we're drowning. I let her cry, let her sit in it. I started, slow. I might be able to ask my boss for an advance. She sniffled hard. You'd do that for us? I don't know if he'll go for it. I already used vacation days just to make ends meet last month. Oh my God, I had no idea. Yeah, most people don't. You'd actually risk your job? I stayed quiet for a second. Then, I'll ask. Jordan, I don't know what to say. Don't say anything yet. It's not guaranteed. She nodded through the phone. Okay, I'll wait. I'll call you back in a day or two. She exhaled. Thank you, really. Thank you. We hung up. I stared at my screen for a minute, then opened a new browser tab. logged into the property management account tied to the holding company, pulled up the records for their address, technically, my address, rent marked overdue as expected. The system flagged a 30-day eviction countdown. I bypassed the default settings. I typed in the full rent amount for the next 7 months. Hit confirm. Paid. A receipt popped up on the screen. They'd never get a notice. The eviction warning would disappear. No paperwork mailed, no late fees, no sudden sheriff's notice on the door. I'd make sure of that. They'd be safe, just not in control. Not anymore. I waited until the very last day. Deadline was 5 p.m. I called them at 4:30. Carl answered, voice tense. Jordan? Hey, you sitting down? What's going on? I got the money. He went quiet. What? I pulled a few strings, pawned some of my woodworking gear, took a cash loan against the truck. It's done. I heard Janice's voice in the background, panicked but rising. What's she saying? I asked. She wants to talk to you, he said, handing off the phone. Jordan? Janice sounded winded, like she'd been running through the house. Hey, I thought you really got the loan? You covered it? I did. Oh my God, how? Told you, I sold off some stuff. Pushed my luck at work. It's tight, but it'll hold for now. She didn't speak for a few seconds. Then, you didn't have to do that. I know. I'm so sorry, she said. The way we treated you, at dinner, all these years, we had no idea you were struggling that much. I didn't exactly advertise it. We thought you didn't want to work, that you were just coasting on that trust. I let you believe that. Honestly, it was easier than arguing. I'm sorry, she said again, quieter this time. We thought we were doing the right thing, teaching you something. I leaned on the counter. Well, now we've all learned something. Carl cut back in. Look, kiddo. Thank you. You saved our home. I didn't respond right away. Then, I want to help you manage things, going forward. There was a pause. You mean like budgeting? Janice asked. Budgeting, bills, planning ahead. I can help sort through everything. We've always done it ourselves. How's that working out for you? She didn't answer. I'm not saying I'll control your accounts, I added. Just a second set of eyes. Someone who's not Carl with a coffee-stained spreadsheet from 2009. Carl let out a short breath, almost a laugh. She's got you there, Janice sighed. Okay, maybe you can take a look. Great, I said. Pull everything together. Mortgage docs, bank statements, whatever you've got. I'll stop by this weekend. Thank you, she said again. Really? I nodded, even though they couldn't see me. We'll get through it. We hung up. I sat for a second, phone still in my hand. They thought I'd risked my job, lost my tools, maybe even my pride, just to keep their house afloat. Let them believe that for now. Let them see the version of me they were finally willing to listen to. We sat at their kitchen table, same one they used for every birthday, every so-called life lesson. Now it was covered in printed statements, account logs, and one open laptop facing both of them. Carl was hunched over, hands clasped, not saying a word. Janice looked nervous but curious. So what's all this? I clicked on the first file. This is the Jordan Family Trust account. Right, she said, nodding. That's where the disbursements came from? No, I said. This is the only Jordan Family Trust account. It's not real. Never was. She blinked. What are you talking about? I opened a second file. See these transfers? Monthly payments. They didn't come from your old lawyer. They came from Horizon Families. That nonprofit? Carl asked. Yeah, the one that supposedly helps aging homeowners. I tapped the screen. That was me. Carl frowned. Wait, what? I founded it 3 years ago. Filed the paperwork, built the website, hired a fake program director, all of it. The money came from my company. Janice sat back. What company? Longhorn Logistics. I own it. Mid-size freight contracts, warehousing, distribution, last-mile stuff. I run it full-time. Carl's face went pale. I kept going. The trust you thought you were drawing from? That was Horizon. Horizon was funded entirely by Longhorn. I filtered it through for tax shielding and discretion. No one else was ever involved. Janice stared at me like I'd grown another head. I've been paying your mortgage, your private health insurance, your property taxes. I covered that Alaskan cruise last year. The house? It's not in your name. I bought it through a property trust when it was 6 weeks from foreclosure. Carl's jaw clenched. We were never behind that bad. You were, I said, cutting him off. You just didn't know it because I stepped in before the bank could. Janice's hand went to her mouth. Oh my God. I pulled up the property deed and showed them the holding company's name, then the registered agent, one of my corporate lawyers. You've been living in a house you don't own, I said flatly, paid for with money you didn't earn, while lecturing me about learning responsibility. Janice's eyes filled. Jordan, I looked at Carl. You wanted to teach me what it feels like to stand on my own? I've been doing that since I was 21. I've paid your bills, covered your gaps, and made sure no one ever knew how deep in the hole you were. He didn't speak. Janice finally whispered, Why would you do all that? I looked them both in the eye. Because I love you, I said, and because I could. She started crying. Carl lowered his head and stared at the floor. I reached forward, tapped the stack of printed records once, then stood up. We're going to do this differently from now on. They didn't say much after I stood. The kitchen was quiet except for the hum of the fridge and the soft creak of Carl shifting in his seat. I stayed standing. You've got two options, I said. One, you pretend none of this ever happened. Keep living in a bubble while I quietly pay for everything in the background. Janice wiped her eyes but didn't speak. Or two, I continued, we deal with reality. We rebuild. Together. That means downsizing, making real income, and letting me help you without pride screwing it up. Carl looked up. And what would that look like? You sell the big stuff, cancel the cable, the subscriptions, the garbage you don't use, move into a place you can actually afford. Janice said softly, So you want us to give this all up? No, I said. I want you to earn what you keep. She leaned into the table, quiet like she was already picturing it. Carl stayed silent for a long beat. Then, I'll talk to Jim at the Veterans Center. He mentioned a desk job opened up, part-time. Janice nodded slowly. I can organize. Closets, garages. People pay for that now, right? They do, I said. Especially if you market it right. Carl exhaled hard. Well, guess we're starting over. I didn't soften it. Yeah, you are. They sold the leather sectional and the glass dining table. Listed the china cabinet, the golf cart Carl never used, the closet full of handbags Janice said were collectibles. The house went next. Quiet sale. I made sure the paperwork passed smoothly through the trust, and the buyer didn't ask questions. They moved into a 2-bedroom duplex in Garland. Nothing flashy. Good light, quiet street, solid plumbing. Carl started working afternoons at the center, veteran outreach and admin stuff. He got up early again, shaved every morning, and started carrying himself like he had somewhere to be. Janice got business cards made. Tidy by Janice. She did 3 consults in the first week and booked her first full client before the month was out. We started talking like adults. No lectures, no silent treatment, just real conversations about money, about failure, about the stuff we'd all been pretending wasn't there. One night, over dinner at their new place, Janice looked at me and said, We should have asked for help a long time ago. You weren't ready to hear the answer back then, I said. Carl nodded. We are now. We cleared the table together. First time that felt like family in years. 3 months later, we had dinner again, this time in their new duplex. The place was smaller, sure, but it actually felt like them now. Mismatched throw pillows. A corkboard on the kitchen wall with grocery lists and handwritten client notes. Some old furniture, some new. Lived in, not showroom perfect. Carl was in the kitchen wearing an apron that said Grill Sergeant, flipping burgers on a skillet and humming some 70s tune I didn't recognize. Don't burn them like last time, Janice yelled from the couch. He rolled his eyes. That was one time, and they were charred, not burnt. Big difference. She looked at me and smirked. We cut cable, but not sarcasm, I smiled. Sounds like you kept the most expensive habit. Dinner was simple. Burgers, roasted potatoes, some kind of salad Janice swore was TikTok approved. But it felt better than any Sunday roast from before. We sat at their little round table, no giant centerpiece. Just plates, condiments, and 2 people who finally saw me clearly. Midway through the meal, Carl leaned forward. We've been talking, and we want to repay you, somehow. Janice nodded. It's been bothering us. We can't pretend like all those years didn't happen. I shook my head. You don't need to repay me, Carl frowned. We can't just let it go, Jordan. There has to be something. I took a sip of water. Then start a scholarship for kids like me, ones who lose their parents young and don't have a backup plan. Janice tilted her head. You're serious? Dead serious. Make it part of your business brand. Every year, pick a student who needs help and cover what you can. Books, laptops, whatever. Carl nodded slowly. We could do that. Not today, I said. But someday. When you're stable? Janice smiled. That actually feels doable. We kept eating. It was easy now. No pressure. No weird pauses. Eventually, Janice gave me that knowing look. So, you seeing anyone? I grinned. Yeah, I am. Carl raised an eyebrow. Does she know about all this? The company? What you've done? She does, and she respects it. Janice laughed. That's more than we did at first. I shrugged. You got there. Carl pointed his fork at me. She better know she's dating the sharpest woman in Dallas. She does, I said. She keeps up. The three of us cracked up. That tension? Gone. The need to prove something, defend something, explain every move. It wasn't there anymore. We weren't pretending anymore. Not them, not me. We were just family, real this time. And finally, on the same side of the table, my phone buzzed as I stood up to clear the plates. Deposit received, Longhorn Logistics client. North Track supply amount, $118,200. I smiled, pocketed the phone, and grabbed Carl's empty plate. Big job, he asked, raising an eyebrow. Just a good client finally paying on time. He nodded like he knew what that meant now. I carried the dishes to the sink and glanced around their apartment. The framed photo on the shelf caught my eye. Me in a cap and gown, Janice and Carl on either side, all of us a little younger, a little more stubborn. Next to it sat the pothos I brought them when they moved in. Still alive, still green. I dried my hands and leaned against the counter. There'd been a time, not that long ago, when they thought I was just drifting. A niece with no direction, no plan, probably doomed to move back in with them eventually. Now I was the one who kept them standing. But that wasn't what mattered most. They didn't just see me as the money anymore, or the fixer, or the secret lifeline. They saw me as Jordan, the woman they raised, who found her way, and helped them find theirs too. Janice came up behind me and handed me a towel. You okay? Yeah, I said. Just thinking. She smiled. About what? How far we've come. Carl joined us, wiping his hands on his jeans. Guess we all had a few things to learn. Guess so. I looked at them, really looked, and realized something had shifted. We weren't pretending anymore. No one was holding power over anyone else. We were equals. For the first time, I used to think I wanted payback. That maybe the silence, the stress, the hidden generosity, they'd owe me for that. But I didn't need revenge. I didn't need shame, just the truth. And a clean slate? Sometimes that's the best thing a family can get. A full reset and a chance to rebuild together.